Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DoubleDM Podcast, where we talk about making your TTRPGs better or different or new or whatever you want. Today, we are talking to friends of the show and the first returning guests ever of DoubleDM Podcast, Tom and Bodhi from HomieandtheDude. Now, some of you might think, wait, Russell from D20 Tales was the first returning guest. Yes, in uploading he was, but not on recording. Content production timelines and schedules and pipelines have made it so that Russell's episode that we recorded the week after we did HomieandtheDude came out before their episode did. Because his episode had a higher priority to come out sooner, so we pushed in the schedule forward. This episode had a priority lower and was supposed to come out later, so it's coming out this time. So we're talking to them. We're talking about their actual plays, their content, their new Kickstarter coming soon, Sky Zephyrs, which I am very much excited to hold in my hands whenever I get to actually back the project. So yeah, first, we are here to discuss our weeks and talk about what happened in our weekly TTRPG games and our weekly schedules in general. So Niels, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite fine. I have a lot to do.
He is doing quite fine.
Yeah, or I had a lot to do, but the brunt of it was done yesterday. So today is just a little bit of minor details that needs working on. But other than that, I'm free for a more or less long weekend. So that's a pretty nice thing to have.
Perfect.
Hell yeah.
Today's a holiday in Germany, the Thursday. It's Father's Day, and also, I don't know the English word of the holiday, Christi Himmelfahrt. But I don't have a long weekend because tomorrow I still have university stuff to do and stuff to do. And the weekend also includes doing stuff that isn't actually doing resting for both of us. So
yeah.
We will see how that goes. But yeah, long weekend is fun because in the Microsoft Teams chat of my workplace, yesterday on Wednesday, you had like 10, 15 messages of people like, we will see each other on Monday, long weekend, ha 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 ha. And after all those messages went through, basically the boss of the office comes in and says, okay, I'm also going to take a long weekend. We will see each other in 2 weeks.
All right.
That's, no, okay. Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Go ahead with that. Go ahead with that. Do what you want. It's okay.
But I have, when I was at the cash register yesterday, some people went up to me and said, hey, have a nice long weekend, see you Monday. And I was like, no, we only have close tomorrow. Yeah, but what would I wait. I totally forgot my point now.
We're not even recording an episode today.
Anyways.
So, okay.
TTRPG stuff. Did anything happen for you this week?
Yeah, it did, actually. On Tuesday, once again, we played Tyranny of Dragons, and our players finally finished the chapter 11 or 12 of the Tyranny of Dragons book. They killed a Raufathor, the old white death, and now had to escape his lair, which proved to be just as much of a task as was killing the dragon. Because after they've slain the dragon, they realized there are only 3 exits out of this cave. One of them is a dark underwater tunnel that we have to dive and swim through. I don't think we're gonna survive that. And the other 2 are holes in the ceiling that we jumped through last time. So there is no rope, there's no way for us to get up there. How do we get out of this cold-ass cave that is gonna kill us eventually?
Cool, all right.
Last time they decided. They were standing on top of one of these holes on the upper floor, basically. Looked down and said, yeah, we don't need a rope. We just jumped down and cast Featherfall. They didn't think that a dragon who can fly and swim like a beast wouldn't have stairs. They did not get that idea.
Yeah, hey, it happens.
And then when they wanted to escape, what they did was then try to gather stuff from the horde that could help them get out, which they did. They found stuff that helped them, or that would have helped them, and then they wanted to get back to the hole where they jumped through. But the minions, the kobolds and trolls that this dragon employed and mastered over, they didn't like that their master was killed. So these kobolds flung themselves in a basically suicidal attempt at the characters to kill them. And these are kobolds. These are 1/4 CR creatures against level 12 characters. The kobolds don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Except if they do it in masses. Because 100 kobolds running you down while you have no spell slots left, no way of actually AoEing most of them, they can be very deadly.
Yeah, and then the math just becomes a numbers game. And the more there is.
Yeah, and the numbers were very much mathing, not in the favor of my characters.
Of course they weren't.
No, they survived. That's that.
They were in favor of the players, right? Right.
Oh, no, these kobolds. I can show you a screenshot of how the battle map looked after that, but it was basically just a pile of dead kobold bodies. The players, smart enough as they were, held them in a choke point.
Yeah, okay.
But these kobolds just kept barring down, walking across the dead bodies of their brothers and sisters to hopefully avenge their lord. My players were very, very horrified that they also have to kill these kobolds now.
Yeah, understandably so.
I mean, they were like, we don't want to kill you. And the kobolds were, I don't give a fuck. I need to kill you. You killed my master. Die. And then they did like 2 damage on an attack roll.
Yeah, as kobolds do.
Kobolds are fun. One of my favorite creatures in the whole game, even though they're very much low CR. Playing them in a special way makes them so much fun. Be it like these suicidal maniacs or be it genius trappers.
That's exactly the way I like to play my kobolds. Just a weird conglomerate of trappers, basically. Living somewhere and just trapping the shit out of everything. Just because.
But that was basically everything for me. I still have sessions coming up on today, actually, and on Sunday. But more to those probably next week. So how about you?
Yeah, I had a session on Tuesday. It was a lovely role-playing session, basically. We just came back from a ship trip where we killed a humongous sea drake creature and then gathered the materials of that and talked a bit about in character about all the different stuff that we wanted to do, crafted a few items. I helped craft a plate armor out of the scales of that sea drake for our paladin, and with some other materials from that sea drake, basically creating a medieval arcano tech version of a compound bow for our ranger/fighter, which I still yet have to see in action, but let's hope it works, right?
Let's hope it works.
Let's do it the scientific way, fuck around and find out. And the more you fuck around, the more you find out, as we all know.
The scientific method. No, but it's true. It's the scientific method. Fuck around and find out, but it's fuck around in a safe way.
Yeah, hopefully.
Most of the time. Okay, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, but just talking about how our characters feel about the things that we've lived through. Basically just an emotional talking session, which was amazing. I loved it. And yeah, then on Sunday we have a session coming up, which I'm excited about. And then that's basically it for me, for my TTRPG sessions this week.
Yeah, as I said, same. Yeah, okay. Well, this has been the recap then. A little bit shorter on the end, but the episode is quite long, so please forgive us that we wanted to keep this short to get the episode into your ears as fast as possible. So let's go ahead and meet Tom and Bodhi for the second time. Hey listener, how are you enjoying the show so far? Tell us about it in whatever way you see fit. Go to our social media pages and add us or DM us about your favorite episode of the show. We would love to hear from you on what impact our show might have had on your home games. Or you could review us on your podcast app of choice and leave us a nice message with a 5-star review. And if you want to go above and beyond, bring a friend into the fold. Tell them about our show and refer us to them so they can get a piece of the pie as well. Thank you for listening to DoubleDM and joining us on this incredible journey.
And now we're back with our guests, Tom and Bodhi from Homie and the Dude. And some of you may know them already because they've been on the show already. But yeah, first things first, how have you been and how does it feel to be the first returning guest of the show?
Oh, shit. I didn't know we were the first returning guest. First of all, thank you for having us. Second of all, how are we doing? We're all right, you know, slugging through life, dragging our knuckles against the ground as the Neanderthals that we are, and just making our way through life. How's it feel to be the first returning guest?
Pretty awesome. awesome.
That's awesome. That's super sick.
I didn't know that. You saved that for the introduction. I feel kind of honored. Thank you for that.
Yeah, massive honor. Feel very blessed and thankful. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said to you guys on the first podcast, I listen to your guys' stuff because as a DM, I'm constantly trying to find avenues to learn and grow and get better. And I find that oftentimes you guys pick at something from all the angles. You look at it from many different angles, and it often shines light on things in ways that I don't often think about. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love the show. So yeah, I mean, being a returning guest feels like supreme honor. Yeah. Feels awesome.
It's honestly one of the reasons why we wanted you guys to be returning guests on our show, because you guys have such unique and interesting perspectives for Niels and myself as well. Like hearing from you guys and how you process things, how you understand and see these things that TTRPGs that are TTRPG related is just unique and new to us as well. Like with most of our guests, but especially for you guys, you're also a duo. So you also have these internal discussions, obviously, right? You have someone to bounce back ideas from, and that's just really good of a dynamic to see, especially as another dynamic duo.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely try and utilize that. Having both of us, and don't get me wrong, we butt heads a lot, but we also, I think that's one of the reasons why we work is because we do come at things from very different perspectives in a lot of times.
It's a good balance. Yeah. Bodhi definitely covers certain bases, whether it's creatively or in the business, and I seem to have a pretty good complement of other things. And then when you put it together, it's a nice package. It's a nice presentation. It seems to have worked that way, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But there's some bits for sure. Like, let's not paint it more rosy than it appears. We certainly have moments where we're quite heated in some of the, whether it's business decisions or creative decisions or whatever. And through that, you know, we just want to come up with the right answer going forward, the best answer for the business, the best answer creatively, you know,
just
that
lots of passion.
Yeah.
I think is what it is. It's just lots of passion.
Yeah. One of the most important things that I've recently heard from for TTRPG creators and general business advice, for example, from one of our peers, I don't know who it was exactly. I think it was Live from the Apocalypse. Very cool people, but they said that the best thing you can do to create a TTRPG project, be it Kickstarters, be it actual plays, be it live streams, be it supplements, whatever, is to work with people that will disagree with you and that are ready to disagree, and not people that I have a different opinion, but let's just go with yours is also not great. Having people that where both sides or every side wants to get their point across, and you could obviously at the end can compromise, it's just way better because then you can get all the angles.
Yeah.
If Niels and I would agree on everything, right? We discuss few things before the episodes where we don't necessarily agree on stuff, where in the episodes we try to just hit point after point after point. If we would only take my opinion or only his opinion, it wouldn't lead to actually shining that on every topic in the ways we do or the ways we try to, because we would just have one perspective. And what is one perspective worth? Nothing.
It's just a flat thing.
Yeah. It's just flat, right? It's several perspectives are worth way more than just one.
I fully agree with that. I think it comes down to feedback. And I think, you know, feedback's such a big thing, you know, for any person, whether it be in a relationship, you know, with a significant other, whether it be, you know, business wise, whether it be, you know, playtesting something, you know, whatever it might be, you need that feedback so that you can then progress and move forward. There's a reason why, like I say this all the time, there's a reason why if you look at like the billionaires that, you know, the public billionaires in our world. There's a reason why a lot of them are like assholes, and it's because they just have yes men around them, you know, being like, yeah, Elon, do it, like, yeah, buddy, and it's just like no one's going, hey, that's a shitty idea, dude. Like, don't make that flamethrower. That doesn't make it's a shitty idea, dude. Like, I feel like that's one of the big things, and for a lot of people, whatever aspect in your life, it's always important to get feedback because that's the only way you will progress and learn and evaluate and things like that. So super important.
Yeah. We are seeing with Twitter, everyone that disagrees with Elon Musk just gets fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wants these yes men, but obviously with only the yes men, he cannot evolve Twitter further. He doesn't care actually, probably. But right, you need people that disagree with you. You need people that will tell you what is wrong and what is right, because otherwise you will not learn.
Yeah. As far as like creative conversations or discussions or feedback, it's important that the people that are participating in that are also aware of their egos. So it's, you know, it's important to bash out ideas as long as you're both or the group is moving toward the best idea and not defending their point because they want to be right or they feel better when they're right. And that's, you know, you can break up a group if you have someone that is just disruptive and they just want to be right versus everyone working toward and having disagreements and sometimes heated disagreements about the best direction to go in. Yeah. So that's something that's super, super important when you're evaluating your group and feedback and things like that from our perspective.
I'd agree with that.
That's just good player advice as well, right? If you're playing in the TTRPG group, if you're part of the party, obviously make your suggestions, go with your plan, but drive forward with the party. If you're disagreeing with everything and only blocking every idea, you're not going to be helpful.
No.
But if you work together to implement all the ideas, that's the best thing you can do.
For sure, yeah. There's one of our golden rules is always find a way. Eventually, it might not be initially, but eventually find a way to say yes.
Yeah.
Your character may initially say no, but as just being aware of the game, if you persist with that, if you're a blocker, then that's not fun for anyone, including yourself. You're blocking possibilities, opportunities to really, you know, explore a creative opportunity. And so, yeah, that's one of ours is always find a way to eventually say yes.
Yeah, especially for streaming.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the end, the more weird shit you can do in a TTRPG, the better, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
It just, at least from my personal experience,
Agreed.
the more fucked up a plan gets, the better it is. Or at least the more fun it is. Not necessarily better, but more fun to explore that plan.
Definitely.
Yeah, but regarding feedback and flamethrowers, that was the segue that I thought.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
You have a new actual play right now set in the Avatar universe, right?
Yes.
Please tell us a bit about that.
So this comes from WotC's decision to try and burn the OGL and everything to the ground. And in our 3 weeks of panic, like everyone else was experiencing, we shifted our focus onto trying new systems because we have been primarily a D&D based podcast for, you know, the entire time we've been doing this. And we've done other little systems, but we wanted to really like test ourselves, see whether me as a GM, whether I could step out of my comfort zone and go for it. And the Avatar Legends system had just come out. And I love Avatar The Last Airbender. I love Legend of Korra. I've read a lot of the comics, and I'm a big fan of just the arc, the way that they portray, you know, adult themes through, you know, a child's TV show. I think there's a lot to me that is really, really well done there. And so when we were looking at it, we agreed that, you know, we were going to give it a try. I think for us, the big thing that we realized was we wanted to tell a different story, because Korra and Avatar, though they're incredible, felt to me sanitized in some ways, and kind of like, you know, they talk about awful things that happen in the history of the world, but they kind of gloss over some of what those people experienced and what went down. And so that's why we ended up making Avatar The Last Breath, which is our 4-part series that we're doing. We're on episode 3 at the moment. Episode 4 will be coming out later this week, or when this airs will likely already be out. We wanted to keep it short and sweet. Each episode's like an hour, then we have a 30-minute debrief at the end, which we call our post-session clarity show, where we just talk about the episode, talk about what went down, and react to moments and stuff like that. But we're telling the story of 2 airbending masters, one who lives at the Northern Temple, one who lives at the Eastern Temple, and we're telling the story of a firebender refugee who lives at the Northern Air Temple as well. And we're telling a story of a wedding, a gorgeous wedding, that is, you know, a joyous day, and it just so happens that day is the day that the Fire Nation attack. You know, disclaimers to people who want to watch it. It is super heavy. We definitely deal with adult themes. You know, there's gruesome death. There is, you know, a lot of like serious emotions. Like our cast have cried every single episode. We have not had an episode where someone hasn't been in tears, myself included as a GM. You know, it's just such a crazy story, and we find that telling the story about these heroes that in the Avatar world are forgotten is just epic. Like, it's so awesome, and everyone knows where it's leading as well, which I think just makes the anticipation and everything growing. And even for our cast, like, it's just getting more and more real the closer we get to this last episode. I will say this outright: I love the Sky Realm, our main actual play, but I am so proud of this Avatar stream. So proud of it. Yeah, that's a little bit about it. To talk a little bit about it. But yeah, super, super proud.
Yeah, I think also just from my perspective, as we've gone on and I've experienced in my character role play what it feels like to be, in my world, all of us in our own worlds are probably the central character, right? And we have other people that are certainly main characters in our world. Oftentimes through history, people that have been very significant, been very heroic, have incredible stories, because of some ultimate end, their stories are just lost. And, that is something that we're trying to represent. I didn't really understand it until we got into this. And for us, it's so, as the characters, it is everything. But in the story of Avatar, it's lost. It's completely forgotten. So I really like that, that juxtaposition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting, right? Because the story has a purpose in the wider world of Avatar, which is a very important purpose. It's that these characters are the brave souls that protected the knowledge of where Avatar Aang is right now.
Yes.
And we all know where it leads through the series that came out 20 years ago. And it isn't an insignificant story. And in the grand scheme of the Avatar world, it is forgotten. It is an insignificant, in quotation marks, story, but with a very important purpose and goal.
Yeah.
And that's a great setup for characters. And I especially think that Avatar Legends as a system lends itself to that so freaking well.
You're right in lots of ways. I think what the system also allowed me to do, because their beautiful book comes with so much information about the time periods that you can play in, and talks about the avatars and like what's going on. And so our story is set right. This is the inciting incident of the 100-Year War. We're not actually in Roku's era, and we're not actually in the 100-Year War area. We're on the line where we're telling this story. And I think I really loved learning about the two eras and seeing, like what that transition was like. You had airbenders in the Roku era actually in the Fire Nation with schools, versus doing outreach programs, versus, then the 100-Year War, there aren't airbenders and shit's an absolute mess. And, across the whole world. And so I think for me, it was, the system really lended itself beautifully. And I think one of the things, like I said, about the amount of content that they put in that book, it actually allowed me to build in one of my favorite parts of our story, which is the amount of stuff that I've linked to the shows. So if you watch our story, you'll know that Tracy's character, Sister Devna, her last name is Sister Devna Beifong. So she actually is a, long relative of Toph Beifong, the person who teaches Aang how to earthbend. And so we're trying to create these links because of what they've given us in the book. The information allowed me to create, Beifong lineage. It allowed me to link, generals and things like that. It allowed me to link Monk Gyatso into it, Avatar Aang's, personal master and like father and stuff. So
specific locations. And like also, if you watch our show again, the history of what happened at each temple,
I've inflated some bits and changed things, but that like the Eastern Temple is where the final battle happened, where, they stood the hardest ground, the airbenders. And so we've followed that plot and then added in our own like homebrew flavor to that. And I think because of that, it's really nice. The one thing I will say about the system, and I know you probably want to talk about this, is how much it's allowed us to tell a story and not play a game, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like I think because we're trying to tell so much of a story, we're not rolling dice as much. And I feel like if we did this over a long campaign, we would be using a lot more of like the skills and like specifically the role play based mechanics that come with the system. But at the moment, we just don't roll dice. The fact that it allows for such open role play and allows us to be like so open, there's very few moments where I find us being like, oh, let's hit back to the rules and let's make sure that we're doing this check or that check. Even though there's little moments where we do that feels applicable, but it just feels open compared to D&D where people are like, oh, I'm talking, insight check, talking, like I'm over here doing a strength check. It feels like constantly constantly it's getting broken up, where this just flows. Like, but I want to talk about combat mechanics. I'll let you talk first though. Go for it.
I think to build on what you're saying, that flow has allowed us to ride more of an emotional wave in ways that other systems can be disruptive. And to be fair, I think the Avatar system could also be disruptive depending on how you decided to play it. Yeah. I really prefer role play, and I prefer being lost in a story and being carried through in a story. And of course, there are moments where dice are important. Otherwise, it's a movie, right? It's a scripted movie. I'm down with all of that. But I think Avatar, the way we've chosen to play the system is my preference. I haven't had an input on how you have decided to GM it, but it has been very much the way that I prefer to play TTRPGs.
I think that's the big thing, is like the system. I would say this. So first of all, the combat can get crunchy. We've experienced that already. The combat can get a little bit crunchy, even though it's meant to be very roleplay heavy, because the mechanics and like the techniques and moves actually have like predestined outcomes. It means that, you know, even though you're rolling a dice to see if things like happen, the outcome is already like predestined in a certain way, and then you have to make that fit the story. Now, that's awesome, and it's a really cool mechanic. Me personally as a GM, I like the idea that I can have a scale of options if it succeeds and if it fails, dependent on how I feel well the success was or bad the fail was. And so I must admit there's times where I definitely stray a little bit from that as a GM, but I have to say, like, it's a new mechanic that I'm like not used to, so it might be, you know, me just being a little bit detached from it, but I have to say I like it. It definitely it's a system that gives a lot more potential, I feel, than Dungeons and Dragons. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
Yeah, I feel Powered by the Apocalypse, and especially Avatar Legends, which has been made to fit the Avatar world, which as a world is very creative, right? Yeah. It's very open, it's very free. You could say when you look at other fantasy worlds, like Lord of the Rings, which I feel like is a very hot take, restrictive fantasy world, right? It's very set in stone. And the Avatar world might also be somewhat set in stone, right, by what the series showed us, the comics showed us. But for example, right, when you look at the different bending styles, which how they are inspired, how different benders use their bending styles to get effects that they want, right? Not all firebenders bend fire the same way. And I think Powered by the Apocalypse as a system really works for that, right? Because it's so creative, it's dynamic, it's supposed to be fiction first. Tell the story. And if ever there's a situation where you do not know what happens, where you can't know what happens, then you make a move. And then we will see what happens. And if you fail a move, there's still some stuff that means, okay, you failed. You don't climb that wall or you don't break that wall. But there's some other thing. Here's an opening. Here's something to work with. One of the things that, for example, that is my strive with like D&D or all these other traditional TTRPGs, more or less, that are roll a dice, see if something happens, and if not, if you roll too low, you don't succeed. Is okay, I hit a wall. What do I do now? I can't try again, right? I climbed, it didn't work. What do I do now? And in these systems, you have this, okay, you climbed, you fell, but maybe there's something different. Here, work with something different. Here, have this different prompt for you to work with. And as you guys said, this helped you guys in your storytelling. I want to ask, without you guys having to tease something hard, just the general direction, is maybe this the direction you guys want to go into further? Like, it's a 4-part series. Yes. But are there more plans for more actual plays in that same sort of vein?
Funny you should ask.
That's a great question. I want to quickly just mention something that as you were talking, and I'll circle back to that in a second. I think something that's awesome, and I'm not people might not know this, but the only time bending in Avatar Legends has mechanics is in combat. Otherwise, there are 2 mechanics that could be applied to it, but typically the bending is flavor for what you want to do, and it's how you do the things. Bending throughout the whole system is majority flavor based, which is freaking awesome. It means that, you know, you can imagine lighting a cigarette by sparking a flame on your thumb, or could be, you know, a guy's a bit more weird, so he lights it on his toe, and, you know, like it can be whatever you want to, you know.
Our airbenders have used really clever ways to use airbending.
Exactly, and things like that. So I think, to me, that's a big thing about it. And you mentioned, you know, like, I wanted to just bring this up, something again that I love about it, just because we are Homie and the Dude, and we do MMA and TTRPG, is when I watched Avatar and then I've researched it a shit ton and realized that all of the bending styles are styled after different kung fu styles, I was exceedingly disappointed. What I have done since since then. And for our series, you'll find our bending styles are actually styled after different martial arts that apply to what the styles are like in the TV show. So you'll find earthbending is like karate, wide stance, hard, clear, strict movements. You know, you have Muay Thai as a lot more arms up, throwing punches, you know, high kicks, you know, things like that. So because of our martial arts knowledge as well, we have adapted the bending to be a little bit more realistic with the styles that are being done. So we've definitely put that flavor in as well. To answer your question about other streams, that's a great question. So what we will be doing going forward is, you know, to be honest with the people, and we want to, like, we've realized building connections with people is what we want to do, and it's what we're here for. So we're trying to be as honest with the public as possible. And so at the moment, we're trying to work out how we can keep up this Homie and the Dude train for a long period of time by getting some sort of income that allows us to not have to work, you know, full-time or part-time jobs alongside doing this. And so for us, you know, we're going to be working on Kickstarters and a Patreon and things like that going forward. But the other side of that is the one thing we love so much is streaming. So we will be streaming in 2023 and through 2024 most likely. And what we will be doing now is we will be trying different systems. We will be continuing to do stuff within Dungeons and Dragons. We have more stories to tell within Dungeons and Dragons, 100%. We've actually got a plot written for a like longer form D&D campaign that we'll likely do at some point. Also with our Avatar characters, we're going to do a prequel series at some point showing these same characters, you know, many years ago when they first met each other and are a lot younger, and we want to show, you know, a bit of that.
More of a fun, lighthearted.
Yeah, lighthearted, definitely. Where but actually the next one we're doing, which we're so excited about, is our Orbital Blues campaign, which we will be doing very, very soon. This will be similar to Cowboy Bebop, very similar to, you know, any show where you're looking at one-off episodes that are centered around, probably we're going to do 4-episode arcs, basically, that are going to be centered around like one smaller plot that will then link to a larger plot that we're telling throughout that, basically.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Make me hyped now.
But yeah, so that will be telling the story of a group of new criminals that are trying to make enough money, get their shit pimped out enough so that they can take one of our HK, faster than the speed of light, travel portals to the Andromeda galaxy, where utopian life is apparently in existence over there while our solar system is turning to a bunch of fucking shit.
Also, like Cowboy Bebop, you know, the characters are very incomplete, and there's probably several instances where the characters will maybe probably take 2 steps forward and 1 step back in their journey, where, you know, they will fuck things up eternally on the path, you know, so it's going to be good fun.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. And Orbital Blues, we feel, is possibly, we've played it a couple of times now, and we feel like it might be one of the best systems we've ever encountered in our TTRPG careers. Like the balance between like tactical combat and then like high role play is ridiculous. Like I don't know how they've done it so well. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful system. So hyped for that. But yes, from then on, be continuing to venture into new systems, Avatar Legends, as well as also Orbital Blues, Pathfinder, Cypher. You know, we're looking at a bunch of systems, and we're looking to just tell stories that we feel need to be told.
Nice.
That's fine.
All right.
I am really hyped for Orbital Blues from you guys, because it's a system I've been meaning to play for like 1.5 years, 1 year at this point. Oh, I just want to play because I think it's such beautifully done to exactly do what you guys just said. Very high tactical combat that you can really grind your teeth into, but at the same time have the flip side of the coin of just be these role play among the stars, basically.
Yeah.
And that's just beautiful.
Yeah, the setting of this is just, or the setting possibilities are just amazing.
Yeah.
Like you just said, the Cowboy Bebop inspired setting-ish. I love that.
That's exactly what we're going for. And actually, the funny part is our story won't actually start in space. It's actually going to start on Earth in more of a like Last of Us zombie mutant wasteland that our characters are trying to transverse actually before they get into space, actually, which will be kind of weird and interesting, but we're looking forward to it. I've got to say, just a shout out to Mayday Roleplay and their Orbital Blue series, because they've done They've done, I believe, 2, and they are both so kick-ass. Eli as a GM is incredible. The cast are top-notch. Like, the improv is just incredible. So if you want to know what Orbital Blues is like, I recommend their actual play like most out of the ones that I've seen. It's crazy good.
Everything Mayday Roleplay touched so far, be it Delta Green, D&D, Vampire the Masquerade, Orbital Blues, I've been dying to play it since they've shown me how cool these systems can be.
Yeah. Their players are very, very creative.
Yeah.
They're very talented.
Very, very good.
Yeah, so we have to talk about Kickstarter.
Exactly.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, you have a Kickstarter running right now, the Sky Zephyrs. Am I correct in that?
Yes, 100%.
So what is this Sky Zephyrs Kickstarter about?
Well, the tagline is swashbuckling combat, whether it's airships, spaceships, naval vessels, or land vehicles. But having that sense, if you can picture, I picture kind of almost like a Pirates of the Caribbean, bold characters and dynamic strategic moves with vehicles. And we wanted to make it as fun, simple, and dynamic as possible. We also are aware that, if you introduce vehicles into combat in D&D, sometimes they can overwhelm traditional 5e combat. So we really wanted it to make it complementary to 5e combat so that people could feel like they had real control over outputs of the ship, but also of their own combat choices as well.
They're not losing anything from combat. If anything, they're gaining something from combat. To break it down, Sky Zephyrs is currently a 5th edition rules overlay, mechanics overlay. Can be applied to, currently the rules that we have written are to sky-based combat for like airships. However, with minor tweaks, it can be adjusted for space combat, and we will be releasing a space combat section. It can be adjusted for naval combat and sub-naval combat, as well as then also terrain and like land-based combat as well. What we basically, the reason this came about is because in my world, the Sky Realm is set in floating islands. We spoke to you guys about it last time, and the system was like, shit, I don't have a way to do sky combat. I don't know how do we do this? And I looked at what we had for Ghost of Saltmarsh and, since Spelljammer's come out, and things like that. But there still just feels like a lack of making this for players, making this gritty, fun, like you are there on the ship, having to contend with things breaking as well as you commanding crew, and also then trying to get yourself in a good position and all that kind of stuff. So what we then went into was working out a way that we could make 3-dimensional movement, beautiful turn-based combat that allowed for unpredictability and means that you're basically playing chess against your enemies in the sky. On top of that, we wanted to give players the ability to interact with their ship, interact with the crew that they might hire to be on their ship, as well as also then be able to interact with enemies on enemy ships. And so we went about building that system from there on out. So that's the kind of basic context. But there's lots of elements to it.
Yeah,
loads of elements.
Bodhi's been working on it with our writing partner, Tony, who's actually based in the States. Yeah, I guess you guys are pretty complimentary as well in how you have created it. But this has been pretty much a year-long project. It started in May of last year, really. Yeah. And so different elements of artwork, of the system itself, the evolution of the system, internal playtesting, and then starting to mold all of this towards a Kickstarter, getting an audience, assessing who the audience might be, trying to bring those people into some of our platforms so that they can either participate in the feedback as we're creating it and getting it to a place where now we're comfortable putting it up as a Kickstarter, but also can enjoy it afterwards as well. So it's been a multifaceted approach, the creation, the marketing, and eventually, out to the Kickstarter right now.
That sounds great. I love it already because, as Bodhi said, I also looked at the Ghost of Saltmarsh, Spelljammer stuff, even the infernal war machines of Descent into Avernus, and all the vehicles in D&D is not designed for vehicles at all. No. And they just put in some rules so that the people that ask for rules don't ask for rules anymore. But they don't actually really care about these. There's not much thought put into it. It's simple, and so that you can just go to basically get to the next encounter that is on dry land on the 2D map. And that 2D is exactly what I want to talk about because, as you said, it's about skyship combat first. That was the idea behind it. And when I think of skyship combat, the first thing I think about, and don't get me wrong, is some kind of existential little dread about it because I have to run combat in 3 dimensions.
Yes, of course.
That can become tedious, problematic, and hard to keep track of. This is obviously one of the focus points, I think, for you guys, because you guys like combat, you guys like martial arts. So walk me through how you dealt with this, not problem, but with the challenge of 3-dimensional combat specifically, and how that generally will work.
And you know what, I'll tell you guys, as we are coming back as your first guest, this is the first place that I am openly speaking about these rules, just so you know. And I'm giving you guys the like behind the curtain look, because we're now ready to start really pushing this bad boy, and you guys are going to get the real stuff. So the way we've done this to simplify this is, 1, GMs will have access to a GM cheat sheet, which will have broken down rules and things that you can access easily. On top of that, we will be creating a GM and player tracker for their ships and for multiple ships. So what you will have is you will have something that you could laminate, or a PDF that you could have on a screen that will be interactive, and it will allow you to check boxes, change numbers, write in all the stuff before the game, and all that kind of stuff.
I want more of that for most Kickstarters, most D&D supplements, because that is the best GMing resource I need. Oftentimes I have to make them myself.
Yes, that is exactly what I found. Like, I have a shitty laminated one that took me like an hour to make for when I do like D&D combat that I still use to this day, and it's great, you know. And so I wanted to create something that allows GMs to be able to track multiple ships, know what their health is at, you know where they are on the map and things like that. So that's the first thing that you will have in terms of tracking, solving the tracking issue. Now, the beautiful thing is about this, the only things that you have to track that change from standard 2D 5e combat is you have to know what zone your players are in. So what we do is we have what we call air zones for this. However, you could create space zones, you could create water zones, you could have just a single zone for land-based combat if you wanted to. You could also have all of that in one map if you wanted to go into upper atmosphere, sky, down to water, and then below water if you wanted to be crazy. But the idea is basically you know what zone your players are in. So there is a maneuver that allows ships to move up and down different zones, basically. So all you need to know is the zone, and then from there, standard 2D ranges apply. The only thing that happens is we modify the attack rolls ever so slightly dependent on how many zones you are away from each other, giving you a realistic either bonus or negative to how many zones you are away based on, like arrows dipping off and, that kind of, momentum, things like that. So all you will be tracking is, like, say you guys are 50 feet away from each other, but you're on the same zone, amazing. Then you're just doing 50 feet of range from each other. If you're on one zone up and above, then you're doing 50 feet away from each other, range still applies, but you're taking a -2 to your attack roll. So on and so forth as you get further away from each other, basically. And that is how we simplify it. Still same 2D mapping, but you just track the zones, meaning that you're now playing the chess game of, am I above you? Am I below you? Am I on the same level of you?
Nice. Great. Simple, but effective.
Yes, exactly.
I don't need to keep much track of anything anymore as a game master. I have already enough to keep track of, so not much added, but it gives that extra bit of decision making for my players, right?
Yes.
Do we go above, below, or do we try to stay at the same level as them? What do they do? How do we react?
Not to mention as well, each zone, as we have written it and we recommend to GMs, each zone should have a different effect on a ship and could also have different wind directions. If you want to get into that, we've added a wind mechanic that means that you can deal with, wind against you, wind for you, a storm, all that kind of stuff in different zones. But zones can have effects. So for example, if you fly into what we call the wind shear zone, it's very high altitude. So your players are starting to make constitution checks to see whether they can, stay conscious up here at this altitude due to low oxygen. You're also dealing with storms a lot more up here because it's a lot more dangerous. The wind is a lot more fraught and it can be very cold. So do we go up into a zone that could be more dangerous for us and get away from these guys and possibly lose them in a storm? Or do we go down into a zone where we know the wind is going to be with us and it's going to give us a faster speed to get away from them? So it becomes then knowing your airspace that you guys are in as well.
The other thing that I love about it, Because when we've play tested it, I've just always wanted it to be strategic. And Bodhi mentioned it's like playing 3D chess, sort of. So how do you make it so strategic so that neither the players nor the DM know exactly what's going to happen in the next round? So we've created a mechanism. I mean, the DM can choose it or not. They can choose to be as prescriptive about having a story that they want it to go in a certain direction, or they can choose another option, which is neither of us know what this next round's movement will be. So the players have an opportunity to capture or to consult and to capture what they're going to do with their ship. The DM also has an opportunity to do the same with, and then it is shared at the same time. The cards are laid down at the same time. The adjustments are made, whether they're closer, whether they have to ram each other, whether they've separated. One's got in front of the other, one's gotten behind the other. And it just adds that element of real strategic, kind of play where it introduces the unknown, which I love, absolutely love about it.
So basically it allows the initiative order, just for you guys to understand, would be something along the lines of, and we have the actual initiative order in the book, but it's essentially you allow the players to run through their initiative order. If one of those players decides to go to the helm and use the helm, then basically it adjusts the movement of the ship. All ship movement happens at the end of the round. So if GMs and players wish to, they can conceal what the movement's going to be, and then it really becomes like chess because it moves at the end of the round and you have no idea. That means you two could fly into each other by pure accident. It means you could be getting close further, and it becomes even more strategic at that point. However, as a GM, also you could conceal yours and know the players, however you want to do it. Movement happens at the end of the round, reset back to the players doing their things, and then the movement is simply dependent on whether someone's at the helm doing something. If no one's at the helm, there's no movement.
10 minutes in with you guys talking about this, plus the stuff that I've researched before, and my brain has already agreed to fuck everything. After this comes out, you have to run a campaign with this.
Hell yeah.
With the center point being airships.
Hell yeah.
I love that. That would be sick. I would love to see you guys do that as well, because I feel like you would bring the dynamics to it and the level of deep thinking with it that I think we'd be looking for from people, for sure.
We have also made it almost adjustable for DMs' preferences. So
super
some DMs, so if you picture almost like dials for different elements of crunch. If a DM decides that they really want it to be more RP focused, then you can really like level it out.
You can strip out stuff. You can strip out like bits that you don't want, bits that you don't like, you can get rid of. The other thing is you could also dial it up. Like I said, you could have 100 zones. You could give ships like ridiculous amounts of speed points that they can then spend on maneuvers and momentum and things like that to do their movement per turn. It's all one of the bigger things that we want in the book is customizable. We want people to understand you can use everything or you could use one thing from this book, and we're happy that you found something here to help your sky-based or vehicle-based combat, basically.
Yeah, I love that. Just adding small little, more or less simple dynamics or simple rules that just add to if you use all of them, add to a way more complex situation in general and lead to way more strategic combat, or can be as simple as you want. I love that. Just the customizability. And one thing that you talked about earlier is shouting commands to your crew.
Yes.
Because what I have experienced in naval combat in D&D, using your crew or interacting with your crew can be difficult or not worth as much or feels lackluster in some way.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you wanted more crew interaction with the crew and the players. How did you achieve that?
100%. And the crew is kind of like my baby. I spent probably like half a month trying to work out how we were going to do crews and talking to our community was, I want to say this like quickly as well, because this process was massively influenced by our community. I talked to our community loads about what they wanted from an air crew, what they were looking for, what they kind of liked and haven't liked about other things. And so shout out to our community for aiding me massively on getting to a place where I feel like we've really dialed in crew stuff for this. So the crew system that we have is basically you can hire one crew member. You can hire as many crew members as your ship can basically handle. And with the crew members, you have the ability. So each crew member will get a level dependent on whether you want all of them to be at the same level, easiest option, or you could have each individual crew member as different levels. So we have novice, and that's basically you've picked up like a peasant from the street to come and man your crew. We've got like initiate, which is basically, there. Someone who's been on a ship for, a couple of weeks, they're getting the hang of things, still a little bit like, and then we have, the masters and the experts, basically, which are, you have people who have been working on ships for a long time. They've survived numerous combat encounters, and they're badasses. Same with experts. And, that gives the crew members more abilities if they do get into one-to-one combat. Too complicated with initiative. What we have done is basically you can now give your aircrew commands. And what we kind of have it is the aircrew is kind of in the background, assumed to be continuing basic operational parts of the ship when you aren't giving them commands. So in the background, they're passing ammo to one of the players. They are, making sure that, the engine is working right downstairs. They're stood next to the person at the helm, possibly giving navigation, all this kind of stuff. Any pulling ropes, to make sure that the balloon is staying tight, whatever it might be. But the crew are in the background. Then you can activate crew members, typically as a bonus action on your turn, to go and do specific tasks around the ship. I will actually give you a little insight into the general aircrew commands that every player has access to. Now, the cool thing is when you take some of our special feats that are a big part of this system, you get special aircrew commands that you can then task people to do specific things or more niche or magical things. It can be a little bit more specific. But to give you an idea, you can get an aircrew to retrieve or give you an item, or give someone else an item. You can get them to reload a confrontation station. You can get them to take cover. You can get them to abandon the Zephyr. You can get them to do an intimidating cry. Each of those then have things that, then apply to either the ship or, you're making people do checks, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's the basic stuff that you can do to command the aircrew to then activate in the background. The aircrew are also a resource. If you don't have enough of them for the command to be done, then you're not going to be able to give that command. So while your ship is taking damage, you also lose aircrew. So if there's any AoE effect, if your ship's overall HP drops below certain thresholds, then you lose your aircrew and your aircrew start dying. Not to mention, if your aircrew start dying and you don't survive a combat encounter and things like that, there is a morale system that we have in place if you would like to include that. For whether your aircrew are on your side, whether they're listening to commands, whether, mutiny is even happening, things like that, So there is a lot of depth within this aircrew system that allows you to be able to do commands, be able to look after them. But also, if you want to, you can just have them in the background. That's totally fine. And again, those special commands are something we're super, super excited about. Allowing, for example, there is the border feat, which is basically you're someone who is proficient in, going onto enemy ships and attacking and then getting back. That person can actually command some aircrew to come with them onto the enemy ship and then fight on the enemy ship. Things like that. A necromancer can, a wizard with the necromancer subclass is actually able to use their aircrew's lives as a resource to then heal their team. If they want to kill off aircrew to heal their team, that's a special command that you can give, which is come here, I'm taking you, buddy. And that's how it goes. So that's what we're kind of talking about with the special commands later down the line. You can do group prayer as a cleric to hopefully protect your ship and create a shield. Get your crew to pray with you, that kind of thing.
That's, once again, just amazing. The crew's in the background doing the stuff to maintain the ship while the players are in the foreground doing the important parts of the story, fighting the enemies, commanding the ship.
Yeah.
And the crew and the ship are in the background.
Yeah.
And then the foreground players influence it in whatever way they see fit. They make the decisions. They create whatever opportunities happen.
Yeah.
And the crew just does as they're told or stays in the background and supports, basically. Yeah. So the players can still feel, right? Because this is kind of one of the reasons why we play TTRPGs as players, right? We want our characters to not necessarily be heroes, but we want them to be in the foreground. We want them to be cool, epic. This system just apparently, as you guys said so far, supports players being the epic heroes on skyships.
Yeah. And, we wanted it to be, because we've seen other systems where it's like, cool. And we do have the option. I'll say this. Mm-hmm. There is an option for there is individual stat blocks for NPC aircrew. So if you want to be a crazy person and do every initiative and run your entire aircrew through initiative order and have them doing stuff, that is okay. You can definitely do that. And we have that ability for it. If you love crunch that much, then we have that compatibility. But what we wanted to do was make it, like you said, it's a resource. It's something that is just something else on the ship that the players have access to using, basically. And it adds, again, a level of strategery and thought of going, cool, am I...
Did you say strategery?
Strategery. And thought. It basically puts you in a place of like, cool, now, am I going to use one of the parts or stations of the ship? Am I going to be doing movement for the ship? Or am I going to be getting aircrew to do stuff? Or should I be looking at my own shit and doing some of that? It just opens up the board of opportunities that you have as a player now when you're in the sky. It means that it's not just, you're a barbarian and you're raging at a ship that's 50 feet away from you and you can't do anything. Now, as a barbarian with the boarding crew, you can charge across with your buddies. You can use the catapult, the person catapult that we have as a station on our ship to launch yourself over there and, cause some chaos. So that's a big part of it. The players come first in this. And I think that's super, super important. But the ship feels part of the team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more I hear about this, the more I want it now.
Yeah.
It's insane because I love naval combat or in general ship combat. I love the playing it. I love watching it in movies and whatever. In the session that is coming up today, we are kind of preparing for ship combat, and now I'm super hyped and can't wait to use this Kickstarter that you guys did in my games. I can't wait. I will definitely get that.
We haven't told you. I mean, we've been kind of public in different ways, but I don't know how many times we have spoken about it. This may be the first time we'll talk about it publicly.
This is the first time publicly that we've both verbally spoken about it. We made an announcement, which, Emil, I'm sure you've probably read in the server.
But the thing that we're most excited about, and we think that a lot of the community will be excited about, is a mechanism for you to build your own ships. And there's several elements to it.
Yeah, there's the basic element, which is in the books. You will have a list of a bunch of parts that we have made example ships out of in the book. You will then also have many other parts that if you wished to use that you could do. We then also have basic rules for what each ship size can have. We also have a system where each part will be monetized. And if you want to do a budget for your players and be like, cool, I'm going to give you 500 coins, build your ship from the start, and then we'll go from there, however you wanted to do it. So you could use the book and build it from the book and then, create a stat block yourself. But the bigger thing that we're doing is we are actually creating a website app that will be a vehicle builder. This will allow you to select individual parts and things in the builder based on the parameters of the size of whatever vehicle you're building. And at the end of it, it will spit out a bill for how much it costs to build it. And then it will also spit out a PDF of the stat block for you ready to go so that you can then have that ready to go. Now, we will just be starting with Sky Zephyrs and Sky ships. However, we want to expand it to spaceships, tanks and land-based vehicles, naval vessels and submarines, and eventually have community-designed expansions and things like that will exist. But that takes it to the next level. Now now if your team are all rogues and you want to have a super stealthy ship, cool, you're choosing the mirrored hull that allows for camouflage in the sky. You're looking at low profile balloons so that it can't be seen. You might want quiet fans, and you start building it based on that, and it allows you to then take all the pieces you want, and all those pieces will then give you the HP of the ship. The size will give you the speed of your ship. All this kind of stuff will be accumulated through you building it on this website.
It's kind of the analogy is Hero Forge. How you can build your tokens on Hero Forge, except in addition to building, while you're building, at the end you have the stat block. It's ready to go. It's locked and loaded. So that's been taking a lot of our time and our attention in the background, and we haven't really wanted to talk about it because we do think it is our particular unique selling proposition for this Kickstarter. So super psyched.
That sounds amazing.
That was the one thing that I basically, before you guys talked about, I was like, okay, I have a question. Like, how hard is shipbuilding? How hard is how long does it take my players? Right, because my players like to do the tactical things. They like to think about their options, but also when we're in a session, they don't want to spend like an hour doing the thing because they could also just spend that 1 hour doing something more interesting for the plot or something. But now with this builder, it might be a lot easier easier to actually get to the ship that they want faster and get all the information that you want for it, and not have to cross-reference several pages in a PDF or something. That was the one thing. The one thing that I could have thought of, that I was like, okay, how are they gonna face that challenge of the book? And you guys addressed it even before I was able to think about it.
Nice. Well, this is what, picture a website that you can go to and you can have a visual representation of parts. I'm picturing a party literally kind of in front of a screen, and they're saying, they're having a discussion about, should we use these sails? Should we use this? What is the speed of this? And they're seeing the visual representation. And after they have selected all of those parts, the UI of the program will build the ship for them, right? So they'll have that representation. And then also everything that they've strategized about will be represented in the stat block. So, and we're going to make that as user-friendly and as pretty as possible, so that it's that experience in itself will be more fun than sifting through a bunch of paper and looking through, trying to figure out numbers and stuff.
Through DMG's tables that you're then trying to be like, what challenge rating XP damage ratio should I be calculating? We're not doing that. We definitely want to steer away. And like you said, simplicity is a big one, because if you want to make a guy who builds airships and he's got a shop, the beautiful thing, Emil, is you can go, cool, I'm gonna limit you guys to these parts. Now let's quickly look through those parts. Cool, I'll quickly slap it into the shipbuilder. Here's your stat block. Here's your bill. Go for it, guys. That's the money you now owe the guy. If you want to bargain for it, roll persuasion. It's very much, something we want to make easy. And at some point, we're talking about expansions, like we said, with other vehicles. We're looking at, after this Kickstarter, expanding this into Pathfinder, allowing you to build for there, Cypher, Orbital Blues, build ships for each of these systems that do have, ships in them. And then the final thing that we want to talk about with the shipbuilder as well, I think, and I think for third-party creators is a big one, for, homebrew DMs, as I know you guys often like to do. Hopefully we'll create a third-party marketplace where people can create their own parts, their own expansions, their own whole ships that then are broken into parts for people to use, that they can then sell on the marketplace and make a bit of money off of as well. And we want to make it, a community-led thing where, people are then adding beautiful parts and incredible ships and crazy designs and whatnot, so that then you can add those into your ships as well if you like them, which I think would be great.
That end goal, that just makes me smile. That just makes me smile.
It is an amazing end goal. I have to say this. And I also very much can see why at the beginning Tom said that it's swashbuckling combat in the Sky Ships, right? Because for me, swashbuckling, at least when I think of it in a TTRPG sense, I think of 7th Sea, which is the swashbuckling TTRPG. And that TTRPG for me is about making these bold decisions that have these huge payoffs with crazy chaos and everything around it, but you make the important decisions as players to make bold decisions. You're encouraged to do this thing you want to do. For example, one of my players, when we played it, was tied a rope to the top of the mast of the ship and just swung down and basically just in a circle, just swung around the ship at the whole combat, trying to fight the incredible giant kraken that was attacking them. And that's a bold choice. It sounds crazy on paper and it sounds crazy when you see it, but it's exactly what swashbuckling is about for me. It's such a bold move that pays off in the end. And this system has all of these simple, which is not to be a discriminating denominator, decisions for you to make, so you can get to these bold choices that do matter in using these ships. Do we fly up? Do we fly down? Do we try to crash into them? Do we go boarding? What ship hull do I use? So the thing that we want to do in our combat later, or in our confrontation later, works best. All of these decisions lead up to the one big bold thing.
Exactly.
And the path there is rather simple, but it's still deciding. It still has these important decisions you need to make, but they all lead up to the big payoff. And that's amazing.
The reason this was created, I hope people hear me when I say this, don't get me wrong, we are at a place where we're like, we need to, with Homie and the Dude, you know, make some money so that we can keep this going. But this came from my like heart and like my soul as a GM. Like this whole system and everything that we've built to make this easy and the hours that I put into this have been because I want to give back after seeing the fucking shit show that is Spelljammer.
Oh, yeah.
The mess that is, you know, Ghost of Saltmarsh and stuff. I was just like, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for our community to have something. And, you know, whether the community finds our product and is able to use it, nonetheless, like, we want the community to understand that this is us trying to, like, write our, like, love song to you about, you know, this new era of vehicle combat in Dungeons and Dragons that we're trying to create here. And, you know, simply, you know, you can alter this for, you know, land terrain by taking away the zones and just making it one zone. You still use our speed point system and momentum system. That's right. Vehicles have momentum. Like, you know, there's things like, you know, that we really want to, like, just give back to the community and make sure that you guys know that we fucking love D&D. We love, you know, what we're doing. And we hope that you guys love this like overlay, the system that we've created in a way that, you know, enhances your games. That as a GM, any other tool in your basket, when you're ready and you need it, it's right there for you. And it's simple and easy to use.
Yeah. Like, for example, right, if you have these, if you are on only land combat, right, you can still use the zones, just don't in altitude, but into, is it longitude then, right, to the side, right? You basically, like, in these lanes on, like, track running or something, right? You're in lane 1, the other one is in lane 2. That also are zones that you can work with, right? Yeah. Even if that's not necessarily the purpose design, because, right, that's just me now thinking about it, right? This system gives me as a GM already, without actually having read the thing. Already I have been thinking about, okay, how can I apply this to different situations, right? How can I use the simple layout that they've provided me, the simple modular pieces that I can now just pull and put here and use to my advantage however I see fit. Once again, that's perfect.
And I hope as GMs, like for GMs, that is the biggest thing. And like we heard someone, we sent out a sample pages to our group. And if you want our sample pages, they are on our Discord server. In these sample pages, we talked about the customization, and someone was like, you know, it undermines your whole thing. Like it undermines like all the rules that you put in here. And like I fully hear this person's point of view, and I just want to say, one, I appreciate them sharing that with me. But I want everyone to know that we will mention constantly throughout this book that customize this, change this. You know, you can change the level here. There's GM notes all the way through this bad boy that are going to be like, you can alter this to do this. You can alter that to do that. Try changing this to do this, you know. And I think my big thing is I realized as a GM early on, I don't use one book. Like, you know, you've got Tasha's Cauldron, or you've got, you know, Xanathar's, to name like famous ones that have, you know, options that you can like pull from. I have opened those books personally twice in my DM career to pull out a random encounter table. And even then, like, I feel like that's very rarely used. So this to me is like, you pick and choose what you want. Customize it through and through. Take everything, take nothing, take something. Like, I do not mind at all. But the point is that it's there for you to use when you're ready. It's in your back pocket.
I think the whole impetus behind that is every table has their preference.
Yeah, exactly.
And
every GM has a style that's their preference.
Yeah, and how can we accommodate for that? So I feel like we have enough options in there to have the right flavor, the right type of play for whatever that preference is. If we're role play heavy, then we can use it. If we love numbers and we love crunching tactics, you know, for hours, you can use it. So that was kind of the impetus of it.
And I'm glad that you mentioned options and, for example, Tasha's or Xanathar's. You mentioned feats before.
Yes.
But are there any other character creation options like spells or subclasses or anything like that coming in that book?
So in terms of subclasses, we've weighed this up a lot. Like we were like, oh, we could add, we could, but what we felt, and I think, I'm not sure you guys will agree with this, but I'll throw this out there. What we thought was, by adding a subclass, it means that, you know, for a lot of people, then, you know, they feel like that subclass might have an advantage over other classes in the sky-based combat. So we've lent into, yes, there will be a bunch of new spells. There's spells that are actually super specific to our world that we're including, because this is written by two characters from our world. This whole book is kind of like Guide to Wildmount, or, you know, fucking Guide to Ravenloft, or, you know, how people are doing that. So we have a very similar concept. But yes, we have a bunch of spells. We have a bunch of new items that players can then use to, like, again, enhance what they do as a player and things like that. But the big thing we lent into is the feats. Now, the reason we chose feats was because it's something that a DM can give to a player at any time. A player can take based on plot or based on leveling, dependent on, where they're at in the game. And we felt like also it could be something that as a GM you give out at the beginning. If this is, if your crew are already established as a group of people who have an airship together and have been doing this for a while, you're probably going to know who the pilot is. You're probably going to know who the mechanic of the ship is. You're probably going to know like different roles on the ship. And with our feats, a lot of them can be classed as roles, but the beautiful thing about them is that you could take every feat and it could be one character. Every character could take all of the feats. So an example of feats that we have are, the pilot feat. We have the artilleryman, ammunition artificer. We have medic healing, stormcaller, arcane fuelman, cuisiner. The navigator can try and predict what's going on in the zone above and below them. The pilot can try and guess what the other ship is going to try and do, as well as having, speed reductions on some of the maneuvers and things like that. It just gives you this ability to then almost take a role on the ship, but also then adapt any player. You could be a barbarian with a pilot feat. You could be a monk with a navigator feat. You could be any of these, things. And it means that you can then very much be any part of this team. You don't have to be the barbarian that boards the other crew. You could be a barbarian that actually uses his rage to get locked in and become an even better pilot. So that's where we've kind of gone with the adding like player stuff. So yes, loads of spells and a bunch of feats. We're going to have probably like 15, 20 feats.
Amazing.
Great. Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're reaching the end of today's episode, so I have one final question for you guys before we get to shouting out and promoting and links and stuff like that. This is your guys' first... Is it your first Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Yep.
What is one thing that you learned that you didn't know before that you think other people that might do TTRPG Kickstarters, D&D Kickstarters would like to know? Something that maybe was not found in a book or something. Or
you do one and I'll do one. You go first.
That's perfect.
I think give yourself a lot of time.
That's similar to what I was going to say.
And I mean, by a lot of time, I mean at least 6 months from the point in time when you say, we have a product and we want to do a Kickstarter, because there's so many things that go into it, not the least of gaining an audience. So, a lot of us think about Kickstarter and thinking, okay, well, I'm going to make a product and I'm going to put it on Kickstarter and I'm going to cross my fingers and cross my toes and everyone's going to find it and it's going to be wildly successful. And it just doesn't work that way. We've talked to a lot of people. We've seen really researched successful Kickstarters, people that have been failed with their Kickstarters and then succeeded, and have conversations with them and can consider them valuable colleagues of ours in this journey. And so there are a lot of different elements to a Kickstarter, including marketing to customers that will really, really appreciate the product, developing the product, and then thinking about things like, advertising, thinking about, do you want to work with any other partners along the way? Do you want to all the different costs so that no matter what, if you hit your goal, you are actually going to come out of the Kickstarter with a successful outcome, which doesn't always happen. If you do the numbers wrong, it could be a real problem for you.
People go bankrupt from Kickstarter. Like this isn't really talked about in our community. Like Kickstarters can also kill people's careers, like in this industry. Like that's something that people need to be aware of. Kickstarters are a gamble. The way that they stop being a gamble is when you have everything ready beforehand in a way that means that, walking into the Kickstarter, it's just a let's watch the numbers roll in kind of game. So my thing is, we fucked this. And I want to outright say that we have struggled with this Kickstarter. We have been making terrible decisions and good decisions all the way through this. And it has been an awful journey. It has been absolutely awful. And we have learned so much shit because it has been so hard and
learning from mistakes.
I was going to say, even at this point, we still don't have the numbers that we're looking for the Kickstarter. So we need to push our start date back to make sure that we have the numbers there ready to go. So my piece of advice is this. One, like Tom said, give yourself enough time. But I'm talking about even before you have the concept to write this idea. So what I'm talking about is before you do your first big Kickstarter, because this is a big one for us. We're doing a book, we're doing, an application, we're doing trackers, we're doing a lot of elements to the Kickstarter. Do small PDF Kickstarters first. Do small ones that are, maybe 100 pages maximum. Build up an audience of people who know your product, who want to come back, build in the background, a newsletter or a Patreon in the background, or a Discord server where all those people that you get on each Kickstarter, you're bringing back, and you have a place where you can then contact them again for the next one because they're likely to want it. So my advice is you need a community before you do a big Kickstarter. You need to make sure you do not start trying to do this Kickstarter before you have the numbers, because trust me, that is the hardest thing, is marketing it, making sure that there's interest in it and that people recognize your brand and are willing to, part with money for one of your products. That's what it is at the end of the day. There has to be, a level of confidence in what you do. There has to be a lot of things in place before you do that Kickstarter. So my advice is as well, take your time, start small, build up to being bigger, and build your brand as you go. That is the best thing that you can do for then your first big Kickstarter, which will then be a massive success because you've put in that work beforehand. And we're going to try and still make it work. So we'll be back in a few months on this podcast telling you how we're bankrupt. But seriously, like that's my piece, is like, take your time. But
yeah, what I've always heard from Kickstarter people that have done Kickstarter successfully or unsuccessfully, the one thing that they all basically agree on, as you said, is that there's some need to be discovered. If you're doing a Kickstarter without an audience beforehand, you are at the whim of the Kickstarter algorithm. And that one only cares about how much money do you make in the first hour, the first day. It doesn't give any other flying fuck about anything else.
Right.
How quick is your Kickstarter rising?
Yeah.
And if it's rising quick enough, then you get shown to other people that might be interested in it. But you cannot rely on that because so many factors.
That's only the people that are on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's not even like the rest of the fucking internet. That's one website's algorithm. So if you go in blind, you're relying on one website that not that many people know about, if we're really honest. Like, Kickstarter is not like fucking Facebook. Do you know what I mean? It's not Netflix.
We've seen breakdowns of distribution, of donor distribution. And Kickstarter is a really important one. For you to get funded early so that you can get swept up into their algorithm is important. When you look at the breakdown, it's not 50%. It's not 25%.
It's not even 10%.
Less. So if you don't have that other bit built in, if you're just counting on somehow crossing your fingers and letting, sort of hitting a low goal so that you can fund immediately and then it'll all just go magically into the millions, it's not really how it works. You have to build the rest of it around it. Yes, Kickstarter is important. And if you can fund in the first hour, the first day, that is probably
to your benefit.
Hugely to your benefit. Yeah. But it isn't the only thing. If you're only depending on that, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. So we have reached the end of the episode. Thank you guys for being here with us. Thank you guys for coming back and talking to us about this amazing Kickstarter. Promote yourself, shout out any channels, any people that you wanted to say. Obviously, promote the Kickstarter again. Give us a quick elevator pitch at the end of the episode again so people can get hyped.
Of course.
Everything.
Cool. First things first. People that don't know, you've been hearing our voices and we probably both sound like strapping middle-aged gentlemen who are buddies. No. Tom is actually my father, and I'm the son half of this team, and we're a father and son team. You can find us at HomieandtheDude on every social media platform. We're also HomieandtheDude on Twitch and YouTube. If you're interested to see us doing, playing TTRPGs, that's the best places to find that. Then I would say check out our Avatar Legends The Last Breath series. It's 4 parts. Each episode is about an hour and a half. Super short and sweet. It tells an epic tale of heroes that are basically lost to time because they put up a fight against odds that just were not in their favor. And it is an absolutely epic story with amazing characters that we're super proud of. Outside of that, the other 2 things that we want to quickly mention before we do the Kickstarter is our Discord server. We, since the fall of Twitter, have been trying to grow our Discord server as a new, safe, inclusive, diverse, fun TTRPG space for people to come hang out, shoot the shit, share ideas, share art, and just generally make it a nice, safe community where, people feel that we're not being, fucked around by the man, basically, as well as also anyone else in the community. And we have over 700 people in there currently, so that's a fun place to check out. As well as that, we have our newsletter of holding. Now, this is a free thing where you can go subscribe. And then every 2 weeks or so, we basically release the newsletter, which updates you on any products that we have up and coming, any projects that we will be working on or are currently working on. And finally, you also get free TTRPG supplements from us. So if you like the stuff that we make, you get to get more of it from us completely free. So whether that's a badass NPC that we've made fully statted with art, a battle map that has some interesting nooks and crannies that you might not have thought about, or even just like an encounter or something like that. We really do a lot of those. And that has over 1,500 people subscribed to it at the moment as well. We'd love you to join our Kickstarter. And our Kickstarter is called Sky Zephyrs. It is a 5e overlay system that will allow you to have three-dimensional swashbuckling sky and vehicle combat in your games. It allows you to expand what your players can do within that scenario. It has a super in-depth movement and momentum system that allows you to do basic maneuvers then with a lot of awesome movement output. On top of that, we are working on a ship builder, which allows you to build, customize, and modify your very own airship and in the future other vehicles as well. It will spit out a stat block at the end of it and takes just a few clicks to create every ship. We are so hyped about that, and there will be from the start, we will have 2 basic ships in there. However, within the first expansion that we release, which will include all the other parts from the book, you're looking at probably somewhere between 50 and 100 parts to make airships off the bat. So we're super hyped about that. The Kickstarter, when this is released, I assume is live now. So go check it out. Go help us out. And guys, this is our love song to you. So we hope you enjoy the ballad and we hope you listen to it on repeat, guys.
That was nice.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. That was really good.
Thank you.
Lovely analogy.
Thank you guys so much for having us. You guys are fucking legends. We really appreciate you both. Absolutely, massively. Also, guys, if you don't listen to DoubleDM or this is your first time listening to DoubleDM, you better make it a regular thing by subscribing and following that shit because you are going to learn so much as a GM. You are going to advance massively. Not to mention listening to amazing guests that have incredible insights as well. And these guys also do an actual play series, which is off the chain as well. Go check them out because DoubleDM fucking kick ass.
That's a lot.
All right.
From both sides.
Wow. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And yeah, with that, thank you for listening and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Later,
guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DoubleDM. It appears you liked this one. What we had to say and our advice helped you. Why not show us how we helped you in a rating? Or even write a review detailing us how we helped. You can do this on the platform that you are listening on right now. It's just a few clicks, doesn't take long, and helps us out. It gets us out there and our advice into more ears of more people. Thanks again for listening and joining us on this amazing journey. Have a great day and hear you on the next one. Bye-bye.